Calling all stations. Clear the air lanes. Clear all air lanes for the big broadcast.
Set up and ready to go. So here we are, another delightful episode of the Sons of Serizawa podcast. What's going on, kids? We're back. We're here. It's episode 87. All of us are present. David Joshua Hernandez, Gorzard.
I've been awake for 28 hours straight.
Jesus Christ, he is wired. We're going to take so much advantage of this. I have a game later that will take advantage of this specific thing. So,
Are you being menaced by Freddy Krueger? Is that what's happening here? Or why are you awake so long?
But here's the thing: I worked graveyard last night, and I couldn't get to bed when I came home. And when I did go to bed,
you were just too wired.
I have no idea because I drank Coke at the beginning of my shift, and for the rest of the shift, I just drank water.
Do you mean you drank cocaine or you drank Coca-Cola?
Coca-Cola.
Okay, I just wanted
We're
to.
gonna do cocaine.
Because that would have made a lot more sense that you were up all night.
At one point in time, they would have been the same thing.
Right. Well, that's another group. But maybe in whatever hotel or casino or whatever the hell you work in. I know it's a hotel. I'm being facetious. In the basement, they have like Coca-Cola from like 1917 or whatever, and they're like, oh, David, we know that you're a little tired, so here we have this Coca-Cola. It's like a rusted can, and he's just like, oh, that's great, thank you.
How do you think expired Coke would even taste like?
He wouldn't be able to drink it. It would have been like this like sludge.
There's a huge market for that, like with sodas that are no longer like being made. Like before they brought it back, people would buy like old cans of Crystal Pepsi from the 80s, and like
Crystal Pepsi. What's that?
I don't know, but Dylan McCandless, Super DM64. Do you know?
Yeah, it's like Pepsi, but it's crystal clear. It looks like water. That's why it's called Crystal Pepsi.
So it's like Sprite.
Yeah, well, no, it tastes closer to Pepsi.
Oh,
I don't even know how to describe the difference in taste. But it was like a thing in the 80s, and then they brought it back recently, and then it keeps going away and coming back again. It's very inconsistent.
It's like the soda equivalent of the McRib.
It's like It's like the soda equivalent of not having to exist because it looks like every other kind of clear soda out there. Like, just drink some seltzer. Like that's what Schweppes is there for. They have nothing else that people buy. Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir, here to buy all of the Schweppes inventory. So thank you for that.
Hello, people of the internet. However, I'm mostly concerned nowadays with melon soda, the greatest invention Japan has ever made next to giant robots and kaijus.
Oh my god, I see. Wow.
Melon soda.
You gotta get on that Pepsi fire train with that now, son. Pepsi fire.
I can't. I'm too preoccupied with melon soda right now.
You damn foreigners.
I'm beginning to suspect that this company hired Andres and he's advertising it on this.
He's advertising it on our show that gets like a couple of hundred views, you know. So they're like we're those couple of hundred people who know some things about Japan. Maybe they'll buy our soda. Do they sell the soda outside of Japan? Is it one of those things that you used to be able to buy at like FYE?
Honestly, I've never seen melon soda anywhere. And it's not like when I say melon, most people tend to think of watermelon, but that's not really that kind of melon. This melon, I can't really explain it.
What kind of melon is it then? How many other melons are there?
I don't know, because in stupid...
What is the spectrum of melons?
It's stupid Japanese katakana. In the stupid Japanese katakana, they refer to it simply as melon. in their own katakana, BS katakana English, meron.
So it could be like honeydew or cantaloupe or some shit, and you wouldn't know.
It looks like a cantaloupe. Ah, here it is. Here's a picture. Let's see. Although for whatever reason, they always give it a green colorization to it, even though the inside is not green. Let's see. So this is
they
a
want
picture.
You to pee like Shrek, role model style.
Okay.
I guess none of you have seen role models. That's fair.
Abomination. This is an abomination, Andres. Melon doesn't belong.
Oh, it's that kind of melon. All right. I mean, it's kind of the same principle as a watermelon, except on the outside it just looks like a scrotum. It's that simple. I mean, on the inside, it's basically a watermelon, but on the outside, it's basically a scrotum with Hello Kitty's face on it. Andres, do all scrotums in Japan have Hello Kitty's face on them? Is that how they brand the young Japanese children? Is that how they identify them?
What are you suggesting, Bill? That I look at people's scrotums every day, like some fucking asshole?
I mean, no, you just
that would
did.
Explain a few things.
Yeah, that would. I mean, that clears up a few. Andres Perez getting intimate with the Japanese people.
You're protesting it awful hard.
Yeah, that's what I didn't suggest.
What are you implying, Dylan?
I didn't suggest that at all. Like, all I said was like, Andres, do you think that maybe these Japanese folks are having their scrotums printed? and you freak the fuck out.
That's like when you go up to somebody. That's like when you go up to somebody and you're like, "Hey, how you doing today, man?" And they're just like, "I don't suck dick. What you talking about?"
They literally start blowing you right then and there, and you're just like, "Dude, I have places to be. Like, this is not a thing that can happen." Anyway.
Just trying to
melon soda. It's pretty much everywhere. Even Fanta has it in Japan, and even McDonald's has it occasionally in Japan.
But they don't produce it. So Fanta has it in Japan, but they don't produce it in America. Like they're American distributors.
Like I said, I've never seen melon soda out in Japan. I mean, in America at least.
Yeah, it is a very strange idea.
Have any of you ever seen green soda before?
Yeah, like fucking Mountain Dew.
Okay, well, besides Mountain Dew.
Hang on. Let's continue. Let's continue to name 15 million other kinds of green soda. Ecto Cooler.
Mountain Dew is piss yellow.
It's still
not
green.
Baja Blast Mountain Dew.
No, it's
Whatever
not. The bottle is green.
Monster's green.
It's piss yellow again.
You forget Baja Blast Mountain Dew, the true green dew. Check me.
Aloe is green. Is that water or is that some kind of weird hippy dippy vitamin shit?
I've never heard of aloe.
Yeah, you can drink aloe, the shit you fucking put on your skin to like help with sunburns. You can drink that shit, and I guess it's good for you or something.
No, it's not the same shit. It's something called that. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I don't think it's the same shit anyway. I'm
pretty sure it's derived from the same plant.
Maybe. So okay, well yeah, that's a different thing then. You're not drinking. That would be like, oh, let me put this ketchup on my pasta.
No,
it's the same thing.
Like you're fucking like chugging a tube of biofreeze or some shit. It's fucking.
It's like oh, we have this rubbing alcohol and get a little drunk. You know, take the edge off. It's like
it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. That's gonna be Dylan's new quote right under "I don't like it." It's gonna be "It's the same thing."
You know, they have a non-alcoholic mouthwash now. I saw a commercial for this the other day. They're like, "Now with no alcohol." I was like, that's the fun part of the mouthwash.
Right, well, it's like, they have all these, they have a bunch of people who have gone to AA and they can't have that anymore. Now they can't, and they've got smelly breath because they can't use mouthwash. It's a serious problem.
Without the alcohol in the mouthwash, it's just maintenance, and who wants that?
People who have been to AA, because that's their whole lives at that point. Ooh, that's fucked up. Let's move on, keeping this going. So, the Sons of Serizawa podcast, believe it or not, does have a certain structure, and we're going to follow that this evening. Andres Perez, a.k.a. Kaiju Noir, sometimes he likes to bring things to us, like a cat bringing a dead bird. In a segment we like to call Shit You May or May Not Care About with Andres Perez. Andres, what have you brought to the doorstep this week?
Well, I've only had one major story with me this week, and speaking of dead birds being objects that nobody was asking for, nor does anybody want. Warner Brothers has announced that they want to make a solo Joker origin story with Martin Scorsese attached as a producer, and with rumors that Leonardo DiCaprio may be the star of this movie.
Yeah, this was
Jared Leto's pissed.
This was some wet and wild shit, wasn't it?
I mean, Jared Leto Jared Leto
Jared
was
Leto,
pissed.
no.
Hey, you did this thing. I'm gonna kill these people. Have you seen this thing? Have you heard this thing?
That was the best Joker from Suicide Squad I've heard since I saw that movie.
The thing is with that Joker is like he sounds like the most coked out like drug dealer.
He
just sounds like the
totally
Joker.
does. He seems constantly detached.
Talks like this.
Well,
You gotta get
Ventura.
you gotta get
He's
into like a
constantly
Richard
screaming.
Nixon. You gotta get into like a Richard Nixon impression. You know, you start with I am not a. All that talking's gonna get you hurt. Like it's the same.
He's constantly
Same
grabbing
thing.
people and shaking them around. He's a very touchy Joker. I don't.
He puts his hands all over their faces and shoulders.
It's
He has
terrible.
the same habit. He has the same habit as John Travolta in Face Off. He's just like constantly molesting people.
Yeah, but that was Nicolas Cage in John Travolta's body. That made 8 different kinds of sense.
But remember the Oscars where like John Travolta was like putting his hands all over that woman's face. He's
Well,
like, "Oh my god, you're so beautiful."
Well,
oh my god.
we know in reality that John Travolta is greeting like young boys who are masseuses at hotels nude at the doorway. This is apparently a thing that happens. So you know,
And you're wrong. And you're wrong, Bill, because he does that in the movie before he even switches faces with Nick Cage.
when?
There's at the very beginning of the movie.
Oh,
The very-
right. So, oh yeah, the sign of like that it's him. Like he puts his hand over their face. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, he just does the
Right.
creepiest shit you ever do in your
It
entire
is
life.
so creepy. It
I
is
found the ultimate in real life creepy picture of him. There we
John
go.
Travolta. I mean,
Bill,
any
yeah.
picture will suffice. Oh
Bill,
God!
do you remember Andres doing that to us in California? Just rubbing our faces.
Not when I was awake. I mean, you guys were sharing a bed. I mean, I was off on my own. What were you guys doing when I was sleeping?
You gotta understand, David. Andres doesn't think, you know, he's a very innocent young boy. You know, he's the Morty around here. You know, he doesn't.
Oh god.
Oh, jeez, Rick.
Oh yeah. Oh jeez, Bill. You don't think that's a very good idea?
I definitely feel like Rick a lot of the times in terms of my intelligibility and irritability.
Shut your fucking mouth, Andres. We're gonna
Andres,
have a podcast.
I need you to put these acorns up your ass because we're gonna transport them across state lines and
What? What?
They can't see them because well, if they saw them they'd want them and just put them up your ass, Morty. It'll be fine.
Oh, jeez, Bill. We really Cronenberged this podcast. So.
we really fucking stuck a monkey in it and turned it inside out, I believe is what happened in The Fly. That was a deleted scene in The Fly too. That's wild shit. So this Joker movie though. So aside from Jared Leto, I mean, No. Here's the thing. It'll probably be really interesting. Like it'll probably be very like this is a thing to watch. Like I'm watching this and it's not exactly the same thing as every other movie that's been made in the past 2 years. Like anything Martin Scorsese does instantly has his mark on it, which again is always very unique. So I think that's an element. But here's the thing: he made Goodfellas like 20 fucking years ago. So this is not going to be Goodfellas with the Joker. It'll be like Hugo with the Joker, and that's not good, right? Like I didn't see Hugo, but it didn't look like the Joker would fit well into that mold. Or The Aviator with the Joker. Like
didn't he do Shutter Island?
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's an okay movie. And you know what else that has? That's like a good
It deals with it. It's got an asylum in it.
It's also got an island in it, but it's got a very good like genre film feel, and I think that's maybe what we're worried we won't get here. Like this will be a crime movie that occasionally reminds you it's a Batman or it's a Batman property, like the Super Mario Brothers movie where it's this like Blade Runner looking thing, and then every now and again here's a mushroom, you know, like or here's the outfits. It'll just occasionally be like, oh here's a Joker playing card. I don't know.
I will say that I dig the idea of DiCaprio, actually. And I wouldn't have, like, you know, a few years back, but in the post-Django world, I can totally see that.
Yes, you know what? You're actually right, and I totally see that more than when I was a kid. I used to, not when I was a kid, but right before Christian Bale was in The Dark Knight Rises, and there was talk that like there would be a reboot of Batman after, like immediately after. I thought that he might not be a bad pick for Bruce Wayne, and like then afterwards, and all the other people they discussed, I realized that was a bad call. And thinking about it now, especially in terms of Django, because he does that really off the chain, hamming it up, but still completely creepy performance that you would need for the Joker. So yeah, I guess that is a good pick. Although I imagine he's sitting at home right now going, "They want me to be what?" Like, because there's no way that they've approached him yet. This is like Mel Gibson directing Suicide Squad 2. They said this in a meeting to attract headlines.
Or this could be just simply a rumor because it's Scorsese and DiCaprio's been known to work with Scorsese.
Probably, because I recently heard something that DiCaprio was going to be playing Da Vinci in a movie. So I don't know if that's a thing.
I mean, he has the right first name for it.
I mean, from what I understand, that was a factor in his being named. So it fits.
I mean, his name is also, it's Leonardo DiCaprio. Did they decide, like, oh, we'll split up the last name so it'll sound more like Da Vinci?
Maybe. No, he probably just already had the last name DiCaprio, and then whoever was naming him, probably his mother, was like, we'll name him Leonardo because DiCaprio kind of sounds like Da Vinci, and I'm high on painkiller drugs because I'm in labor.
I just had an epidural, you know. It'll.
That sounds like a good. That's why I have an extra I in my name. You
know, it's the important things in life. But I actually, as I have for many years, I follow Geekvolution, Captain Logan on YouTube, and he did a video about this, and I totally agree with what he said. DC just needs to start making movies and stop announcing them. And when we actually see stuff from them, we can like talk about whether or not it'll actually be something successful, because they do this all the fucking time. They'll announce a thing, say they're going to do a thing, and then it's not a thing in 6 months. Because they constantly feel this need to play catch-up, or not even catch-up, just damage control on a thing that is still making them millions of dollars. They just need to make stuff, you know? Like it's that simple. Like, yeah, they're getting raked over the coals, but look at Wonder Woman. They finally made one that people like because they just made a movie. There was no damage, at least that we know of. There was no sense of like, well, we have to make it like this, and this to fix all these things. It genuinely felt like, well, we're going to make a Wonder Woman movie. How do you do that? Well, here's how you do it. So they just need to keep doing that.
They tried to make a cinematic universe appear out of thin air, like overnight, and it hasn't worked out for them. They've been rushing things. You know, you got to take your time to set this shit up. Look at the frustratingly long time it's taking us to get through all these MonsterVerse movies. But you know what?
So many years.
But you know what? You know what? Pretty good track record so far.
Right.
That's what you got to do. You got to fucking take your time, do what Marvel did. You know, actually learn your lessons from what they did, and fucking. I've been saying this from day one. Like, Batman v Superman is the second movie in your universe. What? The third movie is Suicide Squad? You do Suicide Squad before Wonder Woman?
Right. Yeah, that was always strange. Also,
that just goes to show you how they view female characters in general.
Well, I mean, look, they thought Harley Quinn was more of a marketable female comic book character than Wonder Woman, and look how wrong they were too. And I think they learned a big lesson from Wonder Woman. And again, it's like, thank God. Like that movie probably... They'll learn all the wrong lessons from it. I bet you that movie won't change a thing in their marketing strategy. It'll continue to have to be like a lucky thing every now and then that somebody comes along and says, hey, can I just like make a movie? And they'll be like, oh, yeah.
You know what's also kind of crazy is that something I learned over the last 2 weeks in Japan, now that Wonder Woman has come out in theaters, and some of my students have seen the movie, most people in Japan have never heard of Wonder Woman.
That makes sense. I mean, whenever somebody says they...
I mean, Most people in Japan who are the age that you're teaching them don't seem to know anything about their own culture, Andres, let alone Wonder Woman.
It seems like
Very
they,
true.
It seems like
Well,
they,
that's the thing.
They know each side of the street that is in front of them. No, I'm kidding. I'm being facetious, but yeah.
But no, that's the thing. It's like there's I noticed that they can be very obsessive with American culture because it's like, oh, it's foreign, it's from America.
Damn
so
right.
So it has to be cool. So it has to be cool. And so they know Superman, they know Batman, that they don't know the world's most popular female superhero. Okay.
That's interesting. So they're like fucking like the opposite of American otakus. Like they're just like Japanese people that are all like, oh, I gotta get that new DC comic, Morty, and then they go and they buy it. What do they call it?
I hate that my Barnes & Noble doesn't have Batman the Long Halloween. By the way, the Barnes & Noble in Japan probably has Batman the Long Halloween, if they even have Barnes & Noble in Japan.
We have I think it's called Maruzan, and that's the name of the comic shop at my local mall. And there's a very, very small section of American comics translated into Japanese there.
I would think that stuff would be more widespread. Maybe I'm just a dumb American. I mean, I am, so...
I mean, obviously, we're just a bunch of pseudo-intellectuals who have no idea what we're talking about because we don't know how the real world works because we live in our mother's basements.
We would put that on the thumbnail if it would fit and still look presentable, but we can't, so...
I like the implication there being that Andres' mother's basement went to Japan.
He literally excavated it. By the way, his mother doesn't even have... His house has no basement, right?
No, we don't. No, we don't. We don't do basements in California.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a basement either. Dylan, do you have a basement?
No, we don't have the right kind of ground for it here. Whole lot of limestone in Tennessee. There's always sinkhole problems. Can't really do basements unless you live on a hill and then you have something to work with.
I know Chris's house has a basement, so I'm thinking maybe that's like a Chicago thing as well.
It depends on, like I was just talking about, it depends on the geology of an area, whether or not you can even do a basement, because you have to have something to dig down into that's actually, not going to collapse on you while you're doing it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
David, do you have a basement?
For now, I would like to keep that a mystery.
What the fuck?
Why?
I also mostly just asked that to make sure you were back, because you were quiet for like 5 solid minutes even after you came back, and I was like, I bet you he's like his phone answered Skype, but he's like in the bathroom or something. I don't know.
Not only is he back, but he's super shady all of a sudden.
He's like keeping things from us. Like, all right, do you have an attic? Because I can guess then.
Again, I like to keep that a mystery.
God damn it! Why do you have to be like every girl I've ever hit on?
They refuse to tell you the location of their basements and their attics?
It's very specifically. That's always how I introduce myself. I'm like, hi, I'm Bill Worcester. Where's your basement and or attic?
Who's your daddy and what does he do?
Maybe this might be why I haven't had much success. But I'm not. But you know what? I'm not. You can't change up your approach halfway through. You have to just keep going. Stalwart.
Well, Bill, maybe they're interpreting attic and basement as titties and pussy.
I certainly meant it that way, so I hope so. Because I really don't care if they have an attic or basement, unless they're going to tell me about their feelings in there. All right, that's enough of that.
Bill's on bitches' doors, being all like, "Are you Sarah Connor?" And they're like, "What?"
Just murder them. God forbid they might be Sarah Connor, or they may have known her. That's what he
does.
does.
It might be the wrong Sarah Connor.
Because he doesn't ask when he goes to fucking the actual Sarah Connor's apartment and he sees her friend. Like, he just murders her and her boyfriend. Although at that point he might just be sick of people like asking, like being like, yes. Like, he's just like, I'm just gonna murder them now.
Well, he may have only asked that one for all we know. I mean, what about the other Sarah Connor that he killed? We don't know what happened with her.
Sarah Lee Connor?
Yeah, we don't know what's going on with that whole situation.
He opens the door. It's like this like black 75-year-old woman, and he's just like, God forbid.
This actually reminds me. Did you guys see where James Cameron was talking some shit about Wonder Woman?
What did he say?
Yeah, and then the director of Wonder Woman fired back at him, saying that, hey, women can be traditionally feminine and beautiful and strong. Not every strong woman has to be gritty. We deserve to be as what do you call it? As female characters deserve to have as much variety as men do.
Well, what was his point?
His whole thing was that woman was that basically he cited Sarah Connor as an example and said that Wonder Woman was actually a step backwards for women because she's not as like tough as Sarah Connor or something like that.
Sarah Connor, Ellen Ripley.
She sings
on the one hand,
the ones that he created, right, or the ones he was involved with.
The one that it's funny how like the most popular female, the female characters that are considered to be like the best, like best examples of well-written, tough female characters are the ones that seem to be made mostly by men.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure it's like, you could say like, that's why he feels about it that way. I mean, I see his point from his perspective of like, they gave her all these fancy special effects and superpowers, and it's not Avatar, so I can't endorse that. But at the same time, it's also like, hey, this emotionally resonated with people, and maybe don't go touting up your own stuff. I just think that he has no idea. He's very out of touch. I think is all that this shows. Because at the end of the day, who fucking cares what he thinks? Because this is the man who directed Avatar. Like in the last 10 years, like what indicates him as having any read on what people and culture actually want and are kind of going for,
And you're James Cameron. You don't have to pull your dick out and wave it around. We all respect you, okay?
Right.
You made 2 of the greatest action movies ever. 3 actually, now that I think about it. But
you counting True Lies in that?
Oh shit. Okay, 4.
I don't know. What was the third one?
True Lies. I don't know if I'd put True Lies on the top tier. But,
no, I wouldn't put it on the top. Oh, you're thinking the original Terminator?
I'm thinking both Terminators and Aliens.
Oh, okay. Well, I always don't count Terminator because it doesn't really feel like an action movie. It feels more like a murder movie, but that's totally fair. It has a lot of action in it.
Isn't that the definition
by murder? I can't believe I said murder. I meant horror movie.
Yeah, recently, when I rewatched the first Terminator, I was struck about how it's kind of like a sci-fi slasher film.
Yeah,
in a way.
that's the tone that I get more from it than action, but it's got a bunch of explosions in it at the end. So,
more so even than Jason X, which marketed itself as a sci-fi.
That
slasher.
Is so not a horror movie though. Like it's like that movie. Like there's a scene at the very start where somebody gets their arm cut off accidentally, and then they grow it back in the next scene because it's not a problem at that point in the future. But then, like, where's the horror at that point? Oh, all of the technology gets shut down, like in every other horror movie. And they can't regrow their arms.
On the one hand, he has a point, yes. Sarah Connor, circa 1991, is the ideal woman in every respect. But that doesn't take away from Wonder Woman.
She's also injecting, bleach into people. So that's another thing. Wonder Woman never did that. She did murder a man, though.
If Wonder Woman had threatened to inject bleach into somebody,
I mean, she just.
That would have raised the movie a whole letter grade.
I would have been like, why would you do that? You can literally just knock this entire building down.
You know what every movie needs? Dr. Silberman. That's.
Yeah, well, Wonder Woman should have been in an asylum at one point, being like, she should have been in an asylum, like, telling them about how World War I was started by one person, and then that's where Dr. Silberman could have come in. That would have been great.
Or a Dr. Silberman-type character, What a joy that man is.
So I want to go back to the news story Andres brought up very briefly, just to ask you guys one question. Mm-hmm. So the idea is that it's like a true crime story about the Joker's origins. So, What is he, a gangster now?
Are we doing Red Hood?
Are we doing the Red Hood gang? Or is
this meant to be, like, I've been hearing conflicting reports because ever since, like, BVS came out, I've been hearing conflicting reports and numerous rumors about various things about all future DC movies. It's like, this Batman might not have might not have Ben Affleck. Oh, yes, it does have Ben Affleck. It might not be connected to the movie. Oh, yes, it is connected to the movie. And now I'm hearing all these things where it's like, oh, it might be this Joker movie might not even be connected to the DCEU. Or it is connected to DCEU. It's like,
have there been conflicting reports on the Joker movie being maybe or maybe not connected to the DCEU, because the
Probably,
Batman,
because
the Batman thing, I always interpreted as like somebody misquoted Matt Reeves, because there's no way that they do that as like an independent thing. There's no fucking way.
It's up in the air whether or not the Scorsese one is going to be in continuity, I think. It's like I told you one night, Bill, when we were talking about this. They're doing what Sony did to Marvel, but they're doing it to themselves.
Okay, right. So, see, they're so big. Warner Brothers is such a big company. I bet that the people at DC Films are the ones who are panicking right now. And it's the Warner Brothers executives who are like, oh, this is such a great idea. Because I bet that Martin Scorsese doesn't even know that there is a thing called DC Films. You know, like that Warner Brothers has an entire section of it that does this. Like, I'll bet he has no idea. Or if he does, he probably just met them.
I mean, this feels like something like an executive would cook up, right? It's like, oh, you know what people love? The Joker. You know what people don't love? The current DCEU. You know what we're going to do? Fuck it.
Yeah, that's very possible.
Going to make a Joker movie.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a weird thing, but I'll watch it. I'll pay to see it in a movie theater. See, you know what I think would be 10 times cooler, and you could still do it as its own thing, and it might actually be better. Just do like a straight up, okay, we're going to do like a snapshot of a real criminal. Like, those movies are always great. Oh, not they're always great, but when they are good, they're always like the pillars of cinema, Scarface, all these other movies. You don't always have to do the origin of the criminal. You can just kind of give us a snapshot of something that happened to them, or just a big moment in their life, or even what it was like to be them day to day. Wouldn't that be cool to see with the Joker or any other Batman villain?
Isn't that like the Brian Azzarello Joker comic?
Yeah, I guess that's a little bit more of like a rebooty thing, though, because it tries to it tries
do its
harder
own
to
thing.
carve its own identity and be more realistic. I don't need the realism is inconsequential to me.
But the basic concept is there.
If not that, though, even a hindrance. Go full tilt comic book and paint like that version of like a detailed criminal underworld. We've never seen that. Suicide Squad should have had that, but instead it had Will Smithing around, which I also enjoyed. But I want to see like a real like Scarfacey type of movie about a criminal, about a comic book villain. Maybe this Doctor Doom movie will be more of that, because that strikes me as
wait. There's a Doctor Doom movie now?
Yeah, they're making 2 separate Fantastic Four movies. So they're doing a kid-friendly animated Fantastic Four that's going to be about Franklin Richards and a couple other characters. And they're doing a Doctor Doom solo movie that will tell his origin, which is not actually a bad idea. There is good source material for it. But if you're going to do it in some weird version where there is no Fantastic Four, definitely don't. Because then that's ridiculous. Like, there's no point then. Just do a movie about a despot. But there is
remake The Great Dictator
with a guy in a mask, yeah. But the Books of Doom, as I believe that's a John Byrne miniseries from the late 80s, stretches out Doctor Doom's origin, goes into all kinds of crazy detail that would be great to see in a movie. I mean, Doctor Doom as a villain has like insane levels of pathos, and he's definitely Marvel's best villain by quite a long shot. So to give him his own movie is definitely, I would say, even a better idea than the Joker, because he's not a character where it's like if you give him an origin, it ruins him. If anything, it only enhances him. You know? Just to know the full extent of his madness and his ego and where he started versus where he is when he's in the dumb suit. Or not the dumb, that's a pretty cool looking suit, actually. It's not very, I would be afraid of that if it threatened to rule me. But I'm more excited about that than this Joker movie by quite a long shot. So yeah, Andres, that was the only shit we may or may not have cared about this week, or was there some other stuff?
There was just one more other thing that I found I thought was kind of interesting,
Okay.
but I'm not sure what kind of can of worms it could open. Have you heard about the recent thing? Not recent, because it was back in like August 20th, I think, where that occurred between Joss Whedon and his ex-wife.
Oh, God. Yeah, I did hear about that. I mean, I didn't read into the details, because I hate that shit, that true Hollywood shit.
Yeah. It's kind of like this thing where it's like Joss Whedon is often known as being a big feminist icon within the entertainment industry for trying to push for more diversity in with female roles and trying to bring them to the forefront and making them like the central focus of his projects or what stuff like that. And then
Really interesting if you go back and watch Alien Resurrection.
Why? When Sigourney Weaver is hitting on that android?
It's just a weird movie.
That is a very weird movie.
On every level, including the sort of feminine-like metaphor shit that's in all of the Alien movies, but he just did it really poorly.
Do you think
I don't know.
that it was because he was fucking other women, though? And
I
I'm
don't know
sorry
how
to put it. I'm sorry to put it in those terms, but that's allegedly what happened.
Well, that's,
Yeah. Well, Kai Cole made a letter, a public announcement stating that Joss Whedon has had multiple affairs ever since the start of the Buffy the Vampire TV show, which Kai Cole, his ex-wife, encouraged him to do so in the first place. And let's see,
The show, not have the affairs, right?
No, the show.
I was gonna say, like, well, then she kind of asked for this, but
no.
so, I mean, maybe in a way, no.
What kind of wife tells a husband to go on and have affairs?
the kind that likes to watch, Dave.
No, but this was the kind that liked to watch TV, clearly. So she was encouraging him creatively, which is almost as cool.
Yeah, and then I guess
Not as
she
cool.
divorced.
No,
she
it's
divorced
almost
him.
as cool.
Let's see. I believe they split in 2017, and let's see. I think it was recently that she kind of made a big statement online and quoted her ex-husband with certain letters that he would send to her detailing the whole thing, where he says, "It felt like I had a disease, like something from a Greek myth. Suddenly I'm a powerful producer and the world is laid out at my feet and I can't touch it." And how he's been surrounded by beautiful, needy, aggressive young women. And he was just like, oh my God, he was kind of making himself out to be like the victim. He like this powerless victim who was surrounded by so much temptation that he couldn't help himself and that he felt bad. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And it was just kind of saying, so like basically the whole point is that like Kai Cole wanted to say that this guy was a hypocrite who preaches feminist ideals, despite the fact that he was unfaithful to his wife for 15 years. And placing the blame on the women, and Joss Whedon, I think
I don't know if that's what that very Joss Whedon-esque quote. I mean, I totally believe that he wrote that based on the wording, like, and it's so him. But like to the extent where it's like if you're writing stuff to your wife, like God forbid somebody did find it, like maybe take your personality out of it. But no, I'm kidding. But it's like. I think on one hand, it's like I don't know if these things are all necessarily mutually exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we I don't know if he had if in order to preach the ideals, I don't even know if he preaches quote unquote. Then I don't know if you have to air out all your dirty laundry. However,
I mean,
I
wouldn't be surprised because I've never met a male feminist who I wasn't convinced was doing it because he wanted to get some pussy. I mean, let's be real here. I mean, whenever you see one of those guys, you're like, I know what you're doing. I see.
It's like Sean William Scott and Jay and Silent Bob. What's that movie called? Strike Back. I couldn't remember. He's like hanging. I mean, Jay does it too. They're both hanging out with the animal rights activists who turn out to be jewel thieves, in order to get pussy.
Sheep.
And it backfires on him in that movie for that reason.
Yeah. Oh, and also, what was it? The people who represent
that. I'm just saying. I know what play you're running.
Apparently, like the representatives for Joss Whedon, they made a formal announcement, a public announcement, saying that while this account includes inaccuracies and misrepresentations, which can be harmful to their family, Joss is not commenting out of concern for his children, out of respect for his ex-wife.
Okay. I mean, on the one hand,
he's not confirming it, but he's not denying it.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what they said, with him saying it. I mean, again, I always relate to people who don't feel the need to air out their dirty laundry on social media and in public just because they're famous. Like, they don't have that kind of responsibility that some famous people seem to think they have to do that. You know?
Isn't that what Twitter is for?
Yeah, but yes.
Getting your opinions out there because you think that your opinions matter.
That's why this stuff is so damning, isn't it? Like, if you're gonna be private, you know, you gotta put your foot down on what you're gonna be private about. At the same time, I don't think just because you have social media you have to air out all your private shit.
No.
You know, like I don't typically use social media for my private affairs. I typically
you mostly use it just to share some admittedly hilarious memes.
I usually share memes and also go like, Godzilla's a plant now? What? I don't even think I made a post about that, but just opinions about shit that is not my personal life. You know, every now and again I'll get frustrated and just write some bullshit, but I don't typically take the social media to update everybody on every, you know, horrible thing that's happened to me or every good thing that's happened to me either. I don't have the patience for it. I don't have the attention span to sit there and type out the words.
He's like, what was they doing again?
I'll start and I'll be like, I would rather be doing literally anything else than updating everybody on. So I just had a cup of soup. It was fine.
Hashtag life goals.
Hashtag life goals, and then there's like a
Hashtag blessed.
There's so many emojis, and there's like there's so many emojis under it too, like all saying contradicting emotions.
You know what gets on my fucking nerves? I'm tired of this shit. The fucking clapping emoji after every word in a sentence.
Yes.
I always read it like this.
Yeah, it's like people trying to like really.
You know this thing unless you know who this is.
I know people who talk like that too. They'll clap when they talk, and that's what they're trying to evoke. And I'm like, that's fine. I can understand you in person usually, but in the text format, it just makes me have to read it longer, and that's not good for anybody. What if I only get through half the text message and suddenly a meteorite wipes out all life on this planet and I don't finish it because you fucking put in all those clap emojis? Like, that's the chance that you're going to have to live with.
I just need us to stop as a species. Just stop with that. Please.
We'll all try.
Nobody likes it.
I mean, I'm not really an emoji
If they do
user.
like it, they're dumb. Unfriend them.
I mean, what I particularly hate. I mean, I know we're spinning our wheels about social media now, but this is a thing I don't like. When a movie advertiser will use the emojis in the marquees for the movies, because it's always so fucking like dad trying to relate to his kids, you know? Like,
Greetings, fellow youth.
Especially the Emoji Movie. Where do they get off using all those damn emojis?
That's like the one instance where it would make sense, and they abused it to such an incredible extent. Did you guys see the like TV spots the weekend after that came out? Andreas, I know you wouldn't have. I'm mostly just asking this generally. Where because the movie was so raked over the coals, they literally couldn't have blurbs from reviews, which usually you can have. They literally could not do. There was not. I mean, I'm sure there was. It had a 0% for a while, but they eventually got like to a 7 or something.
7%.
7 or something, yeah. So
they resort to, like, tweets.
No, they were just emojis.
What?
They were clips.
Oh, wait. They did that same bullshit with, what was it? It was like one of the Paranormal Activity movies. They put, like,
they
people's
put the
Twitter
scared,
reactions.
the scared emoji face. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Twitter
what's
reactions at least
bizarre?
have words in them. I see Twitter reactions all the time.
What's always bizarre to me is when they, like, reference Rotten Tomatoes in a movie ad. And I'm like, what about the, like, 40-year-old mom at home who doesn't know what Rotten Tomatoes is?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then she sees a commercial for Spider-Man Homecoming, and it's like, certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Like,
Well, they see the
what?
certified fresh, I guess, and that's supposed to mean something. But more than that, they look at the numbers as like, one person reviewed Spider-Man Homecoming and gave it whatever percentage it has on Rotten Tomatoes, and they don't know
so
that.
That's not how it works at all.
Right, and they don't know that all that means is that most of the people who saw this didn't want to screw their eyes out of their heads.
Although, what's really funny when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes is that people tend to use it when it suits them, and then immediately try to discredit it when other people try to use it. It's like
Yeah. I mean,
people are either for Rotten Tomatoes or they're against Rotten Tomatoes. Where it's
Why
like,
can't it just exist? Why does it have to be like this moral
like
conundrum?
see, this movie's great because it's got a 90-something% on Rotten Tomatoes, or Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 70%, a 60%. Oh well, who cares what they think? It's aggregate scores are bullshit.
That's actually a pretty funny example of this. So Sony, who of course co-produced Spider-Man: Homecoming, they're okay with putting the certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes in the.
Oh yeah, like they did they put on the Blu-ray box for Ghostbusters, certified fresh.
They do that. They put it in the TV thing.
Yep, I can look for it right now.
No, it's all, I believe you. It's okay.
Okay. But at the same time, immediately after The Dark Tower came out and was getting all those bad reviews, they were they jumped on the whole Rotten Tomatoes is ruining the film industry thing. I'm like, fucking just ugh.
Yeah,
we need
in a way that kind of
the emojis and Rotten Tomatoes are killing the film industry together. You know what? Maybe the Emoji Movie was onto something. Emoji reviews are great because then they'll be shorter. Then we won't have to do. I mean, we'll be out of a job, but or at least Andres will be, because I just ramble for 2 hours. So my rambling in emoji form would still probably be like it would be like a 20-minute stream of emojis, but it would still be shorter. So maybe this is the key. Maybe this is the key to getting the kids where they're at, because that's the thing. It's like eventually the generations are going to keep cycling and cycling until the point where we're the old school, unhip, like old men.
We already are.
Yeah, it seemed like the Emoji Movie was like the most obvious example of old white businessmen trying to pander to the kids nowadays.
Yeah,
and because it was so obvious that everyone saw. It seemed like everyone saw through this act.
There was a bit where they play Candy Crush. Like, that's too much.
I still want to know, like, at what point we started calling them emojis, because I remember a point in time when they were called emoticons.
Those are
emoji. I think that came from
Japan.
Japan. That came from Japan, I think. The term emoji.
First time I heard the phrase emoji, I was like, what the fuck is an emoji?
Well, isn't an emoticon one that you make with keyboard signs and it actually looks like it's made out of the keyboard signs, which are 10 times cooler?
Right.
And the emoji
because that's
the
more.
actual...
More
I don't know. Is
pictures,
that the difference?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I mean that's why I usually use the keyboard ones, and I don't go for the actual different menu in my phone where I have to like cycle through pages to decide how I feel. Like.
Oh, okay. So I never knew that there was actually a difference between those two terms. I thought we just started calling them emojis all of a sudden. I was like, the fuck's an emoji?
No. One was used by AIM. Oh no, AIM was one of the first ones. You see, the term emoji probably was like first attached to something like AIM, because in AIM, AOL Instant Messenger for you kids. When
you got mail.
Yep. When you would when you would type in an emoticon, often it would turn into an emoji when you see it, which is what Facebook Messenger does now, which I hate.
That's why I started using emojis more often.
You know what I used to call them? Smiley face.
Yeah, well, I used to just describe the emotion that they reflected,
etc.
So I don't know, man. It's a different world out there. One with emojis, emoticons, and now we have GIFs, and we have
GIFs. How do you pronounce that?
No. It's GIFs because the G stands for graphic, not graphic.
Well, because the original creator says GIF, and that's the problem because he is an idiot. But
that muddies the waters because that's already a peanut butter, and I don't need two different. I don't need it to be a homophone. I just need.
I just need a short video clip. That's all I need of. That's all I need out of my GIFs or GIFs, whatever. But yeah,
GIF just sounds dumb.
It does. I think you mentioned it sounds like the peanut butter brand, and that's no good. Do you remember when a meme was like the peanut butter jelly time? I think we've talked about this before, but like the peanut butter jelly time song was once a meme. That was considered a meme. Like we're so far beyond that now. Like if you showed that to a kid, like, oh, this is a meme, they'll be like, what the fuck did you just say to me? Like, because they're so cynical and angry at the world because of the world we've made for them. But
well, do you remember when memes made sense? Like they were just like
I look back on those times with much chagrin. I like living in a world where my memes are super ironic to the point where I share them and most of the people who see them don't get them. Because that means that I hit the right mark.
But do you even get them?
Sometimes? No, I do, usually. Or if I don't, there was still a part of it that I liked. But yeah. I don't really think a lot about the memes that I share, to be honest. I usually look at them while I'm working, and then I put my phone back in my pocket and slam my head against a wall. No.
How long do you think? What are the chances that the meme movie will ever be made?
What is that? What is that movie? Like,
it's a bunch of frogs on unicycles. And
see, the copyright law there would be fascinating. Because a lot of memes are previously trademarked characters. Like a lot of meme characters, like I mean, Shrek was a meme for a minute. SpongeBob memes are still their own subgenre.
Yeah. Why not Zoidberg?
Tell you, the villain of that movie would be Pepe because it became this weird like Nazi symbol, and so like the entire it'll be like an army of evil like spicy Pepes.
Right.
Bunch of SpongeBob references. This actually sounds like a better idea for a movie than the Emoji Movie.
A meme movie would be better. It would be impossible though.
And then at some point they would have to go back and meet like the old.
Where you got to bring in the Revenge of the Sith memes? Like those are huge.
Do it.
Not just
I got the high ground.
The high ground memes are huge.
You know what you should do? At some point, your characters go to like a retirement home for memes, and you just see a bunch of like old ass memes. Fucking Boromir's in there going, one does not simply, and like...
Yeah, oh my god. There is a museum for memes. There was an art... Well, it was an art installation that was like made up to look like a museum. It wasn't permanently in place. They have those art spaces in LA, and they set it up at one of those places. That's a cool idea. I would go to one of those for like 20 minutes.
So why is it every time you tell me about something cool, it turns out to be an art installation? Have you noticed it?
Because this one actually was, and that's what it should be. It's art, well, art in a very general sense, on display. So, art installation. The whale...
I wouldn't call memes art.
I'm saying, that's why I said in
the
very general sense, because they have to be displayed on a wall, and some people, not me, because I don't get into this minutia, would say that qualifies it as art. Also, it's in an art installation itself, so there you go. It's where the adjectives come in.
I guess it depends on the meme. Like, whenever they take a painting from the 17th century and put a phrase on it, I'm like, all right, I guess that's art, technically.
No, that's a picture of art, then. I would disagree with you.
True.
I would disagree with you there. I would say that the only memes that can be considered art are like the ones that actually capture people's imaginations and emotionally resonate with people, like Pepe. Pepe is definitely art.
But Pepe's dead.
Pepe is dead. That's true. They murdered him. They fucking did.
Pepe.
Wait, didn't he die of cancer? What killed Pepe again?
I don't know, man.
I wasn't there.
Was it the chemicals in the water turning the frogs gay? Did they get Pepe?
Yeah, well, so it turned him gay and then he died, or
from the AIDS?
Oh, okay. So it was AIDS in the water, not just the gayness.
No, he got gay from the water, and then he got the AIDS from his activities.
So it was... What a complex tapestry you wove.
It's like the movie with Tom Hanks, but
What movie with Tom Hanks?
Is there a movie with Tom Hanks where he gets AIDS?
Forrest Gump?
No. It was Philadelphia.
Oh, does he get AIDS in that one? Because
The one where
Jenny in Forrest Gump, the implication is that she gets AIDS, but it's before AIDS was identified. So
Yeah, heavily implied to be AIDS.
right. Well, we are going to move on shortly to Cryptids Who Knows, but I just realized something. My phone charger is all the way on the other side of the room, and my phone is on 5%. And I have a list there of things I need to discuss, so I got to get my phone charger. So you guys vamp for literally 20 seconds while I move roughly 5 feet.
Okay. Well,
Bill is apparently one of those people that doesn't charge his phone overnight.
what are you implying,
Also,
David?
I'm
So you guys
blind. Something.
Have you guys heard any of this shitstorm going on about the new Jeepers Creepers movie?
No, I saw your post on Facebook. I had no idea what you're referring to. I'm really interested in learning about it.
Oh, shit.
So the director, and this has been known for a while, I don't think it was widely known at the time that the first two movies came out because nobody seemed to bat an eye about it, but he's a convicted pedophile.
I thought
That's what I
thought
came
so.
back on, was convicted pedophile. By the way, I apologize for burping on mic. I forgot I didn't have my mic muted.
He apparently at some point sucked some kid's dick and videotaped it, I guess.
What do we mean?
And he was
kid. What do we mean by kid here? Like a 16-year-old girl or like a 5-year-old? Not that I'm saying that makes a difference. I just want to know because if you
sucked
video,
a 16-year-old. Bill, you think he sucked a 16-year-old girl's dick? Is that what you?
Well, you know, it might
Maybe.
she might be transgendered.
yeah, why not?
Like,
Why are you
gender-
assuming, Dylan?
yeah, why are you assuming his or her its
I'm
gender?
I'm not here to get into that debate. All right, now.
I love how I turned it on him.
I would argue that if there's a penis, never mind. Okay,
It's not a penis. It's an inside-out vagina.
no, but no. So yeah, he's a convicted pedophile, and now there's this third Jeepers Creepers movie that
It's a
the
terrible
Jeepers Creepers
tragedy, by the way. We're not making light of it.
that the Jeepers Creepers fans have wanted to see this movie for fucking ages because apparently it's a very popular horror franchise that I never really got into, but I've heard things, and so.
Where'd you get those eyes, Dylan?
So people have been wanting to see this movie since the dawn of time, and it's finally made, but like it keeps getting delayed from release because there's all this backlash against, he's a pedophile, don't release his movie, we don't want him to make any money on this, he's a piece of shit. And then the other group are like, fuck that, I want to see the movie. And so there's just this huge...
That's a movie that needs to be leaked because it will never be released because no studio will release that though because they won't market it.
I saw somebody in, like, it's hilarious, Movie Web, which is a Facebook page that I follow because they share a bunch of movie news all the time. Every time they post something about this, just the comments just come alive with just, like, this fucking war over whether or not this movie should be released. There's the camp that's like, well, I want to see the movie. And then there's the other camp that's like, fuck you, he's fucking raped a kid. And so it's just back and forth all the time. It never ends. And one thing that I saw somebody say, and one of those that made a lot of sense, was like they should just like try to buy him out, like give him like a certain amount of money to buy him out of any like royalties. That way they could release the movie, and he would make as little on it as possible.
Yeah, but again, like I said, then they have to market it. Then the studio has to market that movie, and you know the interviews and the marketing. Just nobody wants to put the money up to deal with it, especially with a franchise that hasn't been around since the early 2000s.
They're not gonna make their money back on this now, regardless, because of all the controversy. My thing is they should just fucking release it, okay? Because and then never hire him again because that's stupid. Like, nobody likes pedophiles. What are you thinking? So, but yeah, release it in the meantime because it's already been made. Nothing's going to change that. Just let the fucking people who've been waiting for however many years to see this movie see the damn movie, and then the ones who want to boycott it can, you know, stay at home and feel good about themselves and jerk off thinking about what a great person they are. And then
I love how that's what they jerk off to, and they're the ones who are like railing against pedophilia, like.
Well, I mean,
I jerk off to doing nice things for me, like not for
it's
me.
one thing to be against It's one thing to be against pedophilia, but whenever somebody goes that far, you know, there's an element of self-righteousness in every bit of charity. Never forget that.
Everybody has an ulterior motive, Batman.
It's called tax cuts.
But yeah, just fucking release the movie, and because then the other thing, the thing about it that pisses me off is, we like to get wrapped up in the idea of, the director, like he does all the fucking, there's a bunch of other fucking people that put in a lot of time and effort to make this movie, presumably, unless it's just him in every shot. And so,
He literally,
and so,
it's James Rolfe in that movie. Because he did like a movie when he was a kid where he literally would like start the recorder, run in front of the camera. I did many things like that myself in my early YouTube days.
So all of those people, I think, deserve to have the work that they poured into it seen and appreciated. So I think at some point you got to either release or, like Bill said, leak the movie, quote unquote, just to shut everybody the fuck up about it.
It's absolutely
I'm
something
sorry
that, like, and it's like people will watch and be like, "Oh, it's fine," and has no bearing on him being a pedophile. Who knew?
Right. I mean, look at Woody Allen and Roman Polanski. We still watch Rosemary's Baby and whatever the fuck Woody Allen directed.
And still directs. I mean, Woody Allen is a guy who still works and has that kind of controversy. Like,
now,
he's very self-sustaining though, and also he hasn't done anything that big in like 10 years.
And what he did technically was legally not wrong.
No, well, that's why he's still out and about.
Yeah,
there's way more ambiguity there, or at least legally. In the fine print.
Now, whatever happened to Bill Cosby? What's happened to him in the 2 years since that whole debacle?
The cases that still had a statute of limitations on them, just they either threw them out of court, or he was not deemed fit to be tried. It was one of those two things. I cannot remember. It may have been both.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry that a bad man made a movie. It's very sad, but it's already been made. Nothing's going to change that at this point. Not releasing the movie isn't going to unrape that boy. Okay, so let's just get a little perspective here.
I guess the thing is, like, they feel like, I think from certain people's perspective, if they support that movie, it feels like they're giving their money to a pedophile.
Right, and you know what? If the studio releases it, it'll be on 1, 2, 3 movies in like 5 minutes. It's fine. As soon as it hits theaters, it'll be all over the internet.
That's why leaking it probably makes more sense. And I'm not saying that, like, they'll do it. Like, the studio will be like, oh, we leaked it, and they'll be open about it. I think somebody in that company just needs to get some balls, get the file, and put it online. And just end it all. Just put the bullet to its temple and fucking shoot it in the head. Because, again, I say this. It would also... They might even be able to make another one then, because the popularity of Jeepers Creepers, if it's any good, or if it's in any way like it captures people's imaginations, it might reignite interest in that franchise if they did like that weird, like if it was released that way. Although I doubt it, given all the pedophilia stigma, I guess, attached to the franchise now. Did the director of this one...
They can make more movies. They just have to not hire the same guy again.
But did this guy create this franchise? Did he direct the first one?
Yeah, he's directed all of them.
No,
so I don't know.
Problem then. That's your issue. He might have. He maybe didn't create the character or whatever the hell the deal with the Jeeper Creeper is or whatever. But I have no idea. I've never seen those movies myself. I know that not Jake Gyllenhaal, Justin Long is in one of them.
I think he's in the first one.
Yeah, the first one is the one I've seen like the most bits from. But again, I've only seen bits and pieces. The monster looks very interesting, but it's one of those monsters where it's so convoluted you almost don't care. Like it's like, oh, there's so many rules here, I could not give a fuck.
From what I understand, though, it's one of those movies where there are certain scenes that when you watch them with the knowledge that the director is a pedophile, it adds a little bit of a weird vibe.
Oh, okay.
So that's why there's so many shirtless dudes in this movie.
Ugh.
Which actually might act. It's weird, though, because in this genre, that might actually enhance the film. Like, this seems when you consider the fact that the guy who made it's a pedophile. I'm just saying. Good horror right there.
Indeed. All right, guys. So all those real-life horrors aside, why don't we move into the realm of potential real-life, but mostly mythic horrors with cryptids? Who knows? Our follow-up segment. Of course, Dylan is BRB as soon as we start this. But we don't really have a traditional game this week, so Andres, you and Dylan can go in and out. This is David is the sole focus of the game this week. David, are you still with us?
Okay.
You son of a
And
bitch.
paying attention. Don't worry, David. There's really no rules here. It's pretty much just I'm going to ask you some things, and then you're going to
First off,
respond.
where did I used to live, David?
Wait.
That was. We're waiting.
Oh,
waiting,
wait,
yes.
This is a real question?
Yes,
no.
I've been-
It was a fake
yes.
question.
Yes. No, yes. Yes, no. No, yes. Yes and
no.
no. Yes.
San Francisco?
No.
Oh, I love
San Bernardino?
You fucking up
No.
on purpose at this point. You so know.
Sand Snakes?
I don't even think that's a real place. You're just saying sounds now.
San Diego.
San Diego?
San
Brim.
Diego. Have you guys
San
not seen?
Diego?
Have you guys not seen Madagascar?
San Diego?
Yeah. I've seen that. I like that joke.
The first Madagascar is a genuinely good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, David. This is gonna be a fun night. So why don't we get into it then, shall we? So I've been promising this for quite some time. It turned out to be a little bit of a beefier task than I anticipated, so we may kind of break this up into a few different cryptids. Who knows? But I had my heading for this is the SOS Bigfoot grab bag. The last time we talked about Bigfoot on this more streamlined version of Cryptids Who Knows, we did the very specific Bigfoot controversy surrounding Todd Standing. Am I correct?
I remember he was the guy who did like pictures and documentaries, even though people pointed him out as a fraud or something.
Right, and people in the Bigfoot community point him out as a fraud, which is always a point that needs to be made. So we focused very hard on that, and we focused very hard on a very long-standing. See what I did there? Guy in the Bigfoot community who is generally viewed as like, this guy's probably bullshit. There are, however, pillars in the Bigfoot community. There are certain things that I was exposed to when I was young, that got me into the mythological nature of Bigfoot, into the folklore, but more so into the actual idea of this maybe being a real thing, and into the
like Yeti, a gay love story.
Exactly like Yeti, a gay love. Is this a real thing? These men in the woods, fucking men in bad monkey suits. Trust me, guys, that movie's a real thing. I watched it.
What was it the director of Jeepers Creepers 3?
No, because they were all of age in the movie, so
Is this the reason why you haven't gotten into Ultraman or Kamen Rider, Bill?
What? What does that have to do with Yeti, a gay love story? Because there's men in bad monkey suits. Is that a common fucking? Is that a common thread in Ultraman?
Is the gay Yeti potentially David Dakota? You probably don't know who he is,
No.
do you?
No idea. I don't know who the fuck that is.
Okay. I want you to go on Google. Actually, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put David Dakota movies. I want you to take this.
All right.
This phrase here. I shared it on Skype. Take
wow.
David Dakota movies.
And you
Hey, he's got a really
put this in Google.
Yes, put it in Google. Look up the images.
All right.
And it'll make and the gay story, the gay
gay
Yeti
love story will unfold.
The gay Yeti story will make so much sense if he was secretly the man in the bad monkey suit.
It was. You know what's funny about that suit too? Like, oh god.
What the hell?
Oh my god.
Wait, is this
guy had a movie?
Is this porn?
Of course it's porn. Yeah, but it's like softcore porn, right? Like it's like porn where they don't show the dicks and pussies, or mostly the dicks, I would imagine.
Yeah, they don't show anything. It's just dudes with no shirts doing nothing.
Right.
Wait, that's what soft porn. I mean, that's what soft porn is.
So, Dylan, the topic of this week's Cryptid Who Knows.
I came back on dicks and pussies. So,
the topic of this week's Cryptid Who Knows is porn. Pornographic cryptid films.
that one
Why
I
are all
assure you.
these dudes without shirts.
Because it's a David Dakota movie.
But they don't fuck. Like, it's not gay. It's just they're hanging out with no shirts.
Right.
That's so... Why? Why? It's like it's like Twilight at that point. It's like, just have them fuck. Like, you might as well. Like, you've got so much other crap going on. You've got so much other...
Dakota is 55 years old?
That's why he doesn't want them to fuck. He doesn't have the energy to keep up with it. He can't keep the camera traced on them.
Did Jeepers Creepers guy direct this?
No, because there's no fucking, and again, they're all of age.
Okay.
Oh, I believe you.
Just checking. Thought I might have to go on a fucking keyboard crusade there for a moment.
Keyboard crusade. What is up with you lately and coming up with like alliterative ways to put keyboard in a sentence? Like, you got the keyboard kids over on DFS.
Well, most people call them keyboard warriors, but I don't want to call them that because that's cliche. So I come up with other ways of saying.
And the phrase social justice warrior is super overused now to the point where it's kind of lost meaning.
We also don't we don't really get attacked by them. We get attacked by like GJWs, Godzilla Justice Warriors.
I really wish we would get attacked by.
Why? Because we don't talk about Godzilla enough for their ADD riddled minds to stay focused on.
We did a lot of Godzilla talking last week, though, so I think they were satisfied.
That is true.
No, Andres.
I've seen for myself that whenever I'm on a chat that's like where people come expecting to hear Godzilla, and the moment I don't talk about Godzilla, they're like, "Where's Godzilla?" Godzilla.
I mean, we are called the Sons of Serizawa podcast, to be fair, so it's not an
I
unfair expectation.
I try to get attacked by SJWs, man. I say horrible shit all the time, and they're just not interested. I don't know.
He's trying to egg them on. That's how he makes moves, man.
I got to step my game up, man.
He's an agent of chaos. He just does things.
I mean, listen, you get into a feud with them, great for the views, man. So many clicks.
That's true. We might end up... there might be an article about us.
We needed Anita Sarkeesian to come along and say, they're sexist and they like butts. And we're like, yes.
Yes.
Well, that's true.
These are two true things. No.
Didn't she make a whole video about criticizing ass shots in video games?
Do you guys want to do that? We should do that as as an episode. We should criticize Ash, but we should do it in terms of like, oh, well, they could have done it better. Like, yeah, they should have been better.
The problem was that she was wearing pants.
But like, the issue here is that there's any clothes on whatsoever.
No, the best part was when she went on the tirade about strategic butt coverings. Male characters like Batman get to have a cape to cover their butts, and I'm like, no, that's because he's Batman, and he always has a cape.
He had a cape since you started.
Also, what about Supergirl and Batgirl, huh?
Yeah, but their capes don't cover their butts, though. To be fair,
depending on the artist.
Depending on the artist, yeah.
There are other examples, like dude from Assassin's Creed. At least that's not a character who is known for having a cape. But there was seriously.
Yeah, but he has a fucking cloak on. Like, he might as well have a cape.
Isn't he the whole point of the costume is that he's meant to dress up like a priest?
He's all dressed up like robes, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I could never follow.
But that depends on the Assassin's. It depends on the Assassin's Creed, Andre. So. I'm kidding.
I mean, put I don't care. I don't give a fuck. Put everybody's ass in the game. Who gives a shit?
I would be okay if everybody in every movie was naked. The uglier, the better. Like, 'cause you know how much money I would pay to see like Harvey Fierstein naked in a movie? Not for any kind of sexual reason, just the thrill of it. Like, oh my god, he's naked. Like, what the hell happened there? Like, why that?
It would definitely sell, okay? Because I mean,
to me,
look at our pop. Look at our pop music. Every other song is essentially just ass, just screaming ass.
Look at our rap music. I mean, it's like, do you guys listen to rap music? It's just like,
I know because of that. It's just people saying, "Look how awesome I am! Look how many bitches and hoes I got." It's like, I don't care.
And it's not sexist anymore because both sexes have raps that do it. So it's we're all.
The problem is it's lost its edge, man.
That's exactly because it's so cliche and passé now. Like we can have we can have like commercials for lubricant on primetime television. Like what?
I don't.
Yeah, you just gotta not tell what it does.
Right.
I don't want to hear the ass song. What happened to classic raps like Baby Got Back or Back That Ass Up or the Thong Song. You know, it's all just about butts nowadays. Is all I'm saying. Like, you gotta.
What happened to liking big butts and not telling lies?
We live in such a dishonest world now.
I think the problem is we're being too honest. We need to go back to being discreet and smart with our choice of words, choice of lyrics.
That's, as Dylan said, we need to be more subtle about how we evoke how we feel about the booty. By putting it in the title of the song. So
it wasn't. So much the personality, I guess. I don't know.
Well, we managed to stall for enough time for Dylan to get back before we actually got into the proper cryptid stuff. So look at us. We're a miracle of modern podcasting. In all of our sexist and booty-obsessed glory.
This week is dad ass.
Yeah, in a way. No. So, as I said while you were gone, D, we're doing a Bigfoot grab bag this week. I've been meaning to do this for a while. Just different stuff that I remember from when I was a kid of Bigfoot lore that got me psyched about the whole deal when I was young, and we're going to go through it, and we're going to talk about how it holds up now. Now, I wasn't able, again, we're going to break it up because there's quite a bit, so we're probably going to do this over a couple of podcasts, maybe not in a row, but again, there's quite a bit here to get through, and I didn't even get to research all of it tonight, so we'll mostly stick with that, because all the other stuff I'm a little hazy on.
I don't know if I want to grab Bigfoot's bag, but let's.
You do. You so do though. You're wanting sex from who was it? He wanted sex from in the beginning. Andres.
I don't remember.
Who was he looking to fuck?
Crazy fucking podcast.
Ooh, what?
Who was Dylan trying to fuck at the beginning? He was like, "I want sex from this person." Who was it? I can't even remember.
What?
I love how I'm the one amongst us who smokes like an indiscernible amount of weed, and I'm the one who remembers more of the beginning of this conversation than you guys. Okay. That
wasn't even on recording, so the audience doesn't know what the fuck you're
Was that
talking about.
not? I thought that was at the very beginning.
No, you were. I don't think you had started recording at that point, had you?
I thought I had. I don't know. So I guess we'll find out when I edit this. So anyway, on to the task at hand. So grabbing Bigfoot's bag. That Dylan so desperately wants to grab.
I swear sometimes I think I get a contact through Skype. I don't know what the fuck we're talking about anymore. Like, what the...
We're talking about Bigfoot's bags, D.
That's right.
All right, so the idea here, again, is to go back, and we're going to go back chronologically in this, and we're going to go back to... Is it all pre-20th century? No, it's not, but most of it is. Pre-20th century Bigfoot, as I like to call it. Bigfoot classic, show a Bigfoot, if you will. So the reason why this always grabbed my attention when I was a kid, when I was trying to grab Bigfoot's bags, was because the idea of a cryptid being recorded so far back was not something that was common, and is still not. We talk about it a lot on this show, how a lot of these things start up in the early 20th century, get really popular in newspapers, and then they totally die off and nobody ever talks about them. Bigfoot is one of the rare exceptions where he predates that kind of hysteria, and he's withstood it and gone beyond it to survive as something that people continue to report and see, and he's still stayed very alive in pop culture. And hasn't gone the way of the Loch Ness Monster or the Jersey Devil or the Mothman, or where it's like concentrated to this one part of history, and then everything else is just moot. There are a couple of hot spots with Bigfoot. We'll talk about one of them tonight.
He's a great agent, that Bigfoot. You know,
he does.
He's done a wonderful job managing his career. You know, staying in the limelight without having to have a sex scandal. You know.
Yeah, but there's all these stories. Like, that's so inaccurate, though, because didn't you read the paper the other day in the grocery store line when the woman was saying she's having Bigfoot's baby? Like...
No.
Well, clearly you're not following the real news. Don't you remember what Tommy Lee Jones said in Men in Black? It's the only paper worth reading.
Right. What was that one fake newspaper that used to have the Bat Boy stories? I missed them.
I mean, there were a few. The National Enquirer, the Daily Sun is maybe one?
That might be it. I don't remember.
But the National Enquirer is your big one, and they're more, and by more I mean they pretend to be more legit now. But the other thing is nobody reads print media anymore, so all print media is like super like it's all just as believable as the National Enquirer. But we're not going to the National Enquirer for our sources of Bigfoot
News,
stories.
That's
tonight.
what it was called. Weekly World News. That used to
Yes, that's the other one. That's the one that had Batboy. Yes, and I think Weekly World News was more monster oriented. National Enquirer is more celebrity scandals anyway.
Weekly World News is one that's like, it has such classic headlines as, Bat Child found in cave, Dick Cheney is a robot.
Well, that
I think
was
that's
just
where
accurate.
I think that's where that one about the woman who was leaving her husband over Godzilla. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, of course I've seen that one. I have that one tattooed on my ass. Like,
didn't that come from the Weekly World News, or did that come
so.
from
I'm pretty
somewhere
sure it's the Weekly World News. There was also one. There was a very famous one that is still. I still see this like used in memes by Godzilla fans. Like they took the shot from Godzilla Raids Again, where Godzilla is biting Anguirus' neck, and they're like love affair behind the scenes of Godzilla. I think that was also them. And they also showed some bits from King Kong where it was like, I think their idea was like Godzilla was like some sex-crazed maniac fucking his co-stars. But it's hard to remember. So we are going to do this as kind of a game. I didn't plan it as that, but then when I found out that David was sleep-deprived, I was like, oh my god, I have to take advantage of this. So the idea here will be, these are all things that grabbed my attention as a child, and again, reaffirmed my belief that Bigfoot was out there, and I've gone back to some of them now and have maybe different opinions on them. I want David's raw opinion on the basic story as I tell it, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty details afterwards. So, David, are you ready to begin?
Might as well.
All right, let's do it. So, David, I want to ask you a very simple question to start with. Who discovered America? All right, I'll tell you this. That's a very broad question. I'll simplify it. Who was the first European to be in America? Who was the first one to get here? Your silence
I was
speaks
not prepared
volumes.
for this.
Guess. I'll tell you what. All of your options have days named after them.
Are you only asking Dave?
I mean, because I think it's funnier. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna let it linger too long because I want to keep this moving. So, David, what I wanted you to get to is either you should have said Christopher Columbus ideally as your first choice, because that's the one that has the holiday that most of us get off, named after.
Get off what?
I don't get off on Columbus Day. That would be very disrespectful.
Especially to all the Native Americans that lost their lives afterwards.
Well, I meant that most states deem that as a national holiday, so people get off from work.
I actually meant disrespectful to my ancestors who, died stealing that land from the Native Americans. It was very...
We have to mourn it on all sides, you see. But a lot of people, I read more up on this than I did this man's connection to Sasquatch. Leif Erikson, who also has a day named after him. It's October 9th, I believe.
Leif Erikson Day?
Leif Erikson Day is a real thing, yeah.
Do we all celebrate that? Is that just for hippies?
No, that is a national holiday in America. Yes, we just don't get off for it, and that's where the
real.
Yeah, that's real, and that's where the controversy comes in. There are people who say that we should celebrate and get off for Leif Erikson Day as opposed to Columbus Day, because by the same logic as Columbus discovering America, technically Leif Erikson did it first, because there's archaeological evidence, not super concrete, that he had settlements in North America before Christopher Columbus was even born. So
at that point,
it's just
why don't we
the
just
debate.
celebrate?
It's not in America proper, though. It would have been more in Canada, is the thing. So technically, if we're just speaking United States of America, then technically Christopher Columbus would still would still have that. Because the argument that I read that made sense was that even if Leif Erikson fucking crashed his boat on the shores and actually ended up in something that would later become part of the United States, Christopher Columbus is the one that motivated all the immigrants to come here and murder all the people who were here already. So he's the one who should get the holiday.
At that point, why don't we just fucking devote a holiday to the fucking land bridge between Asia and North America?
That's the thing. Well, that's the thing. It's like, it doesn't even matter that either of them got here because there were already people here. It was already discovered, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of colonization and European immigration. That's what we're talking about here. And that's why, like, especially like Italian Americans, they're very vehement about keeping that day, you know, for tradition's sake and everything. Although it's only been a national holiday since the 70s. Now, I only looked this up.
Erikson Day or Columbus Day? Which one are the Italian?
Columbus Day. That would be the Italian Americans who want to keep that a holiday.
Was he Italian? I thought he was.
Yeah. That's the reason why. Like, apparently there was this video. If you guys follow, I don't know if you guys follow College Humor, but there's a series called Adam Ruins Everything. And
yeah, I liked Adam Ruins Everything before it went all mainstream and went on to TBS. Huh?
Yeah. And he made an episode about Christopher Columbus and how pretty much the only reason why they made him, the American government made him popular to begin with, was, I guess, because they wanted to, I don't know, do something to encourage Italian Americans to be more productive, like this one guy over here who wasn't really productive. But if they say he was productive, then that would make the Italian Americans happy.
More than that, there was also this anti-immigrant mindset in the early 20th century that this movement was trying to subvert.
Never again.
Yeah, right, but it was like the immigrants who are now mad at other immigrants. Like, that was the funny thing. So that's where all the controversy comes in, and the Nordic Swedish immigrants are the ones who were fighting the Italian Americans and the Spanish Americans and all that part of Europe. They were fighting them on getting Leif Erikson Day turned into a national holiday, which it eventually was, but it's not. We don't get off for it. Nobody gets off for that. Nobody jerks off to Leif Erikson Day.
No, it's just not a very sexy name, you know.
No, absolutely not. But David, a very sexy alliterative name. David, the question that really matters to you is not whether or not we celebrate this man as being the true founder of America. Did Leif Erikson see Bigfoot?
Hey man, I like to think that we've all seen Bigfoot.
And I am not gonna provide evidence for my answer.
Because Ancient Mysteries back in the 90s, and this comes from another book that was published in like the 70s or something. It was like On the Trail of Bigfoot, one of those that came out in the 70s and 80s. Bigfoot may not have one decade where all of his sightings are locked into, but there is definitely a peak that's in the 60s and 70s, around the time of the Roger Patterson film. And after that is when you get all these Bigfoot books that a lot of my information about Bigfoot comes from, about the folklore of it and the quote-unquote canon of it. And one of them was one of the first to put forward the idea that Leif Erikson, because we're also talking about, and this also comes into why there's so much debate over whether or not we should celebrate him as having a day, because there's so little concrete information about Leif Erikson out there and all of the Viking and quote-unquote Viking culture. Leif Erikson was not really a Viking because they were warriors. He himself was not a warrior. He was an explorer. He didn't really get involved in that.
That's a terrible name for a Viking. That's like, the face of Vikings. You know what I mean? Like, that's...
They weren't all named Thor, D. Like, you know, they weren't all... They didn't all luck out with that name.
But you need a tough name. You can't be fucking Leif.
But again, but D, he was not really a traditional Viking. He was not a warrior. He was an explorer. He was or maybe not even explorer is a good word. He was more of a civilization starter, if anything, a fucking town mayor, if anything.
Well, that's why it's okay, because he's not actually like a Viking. If he were a Viking,
right. He would need a cooler name. Certainly, I completely agree.
And carry around a battle axe.
I mean, he presumably had some sort of weapon. He was going into Uncharted by Vikings. And again, by Vikings, I mean the Nordic people. trying to avoid all these commenters who I know don't care about this kind of thing.
Yeah, because nobody watches our show and cares enough to write that paragraph.
I do it for the people who may or may not, though. Somebody will listen to this and get angry.
You're trying to avoid the keyboard kids?
I'm trying to avoid the keyboard kids.
Well, actually...
Ugh. So, to get back to David's
Actually...
God. That hurt. I felt the spit hit my cheek when that started. Ancient Mysteries, a documentary series. Documentary is a loose term. A series in the 90s that I'm sure all of us saw clips from. That Leonard Nimoy was the host of, and it was one that was about all kinds of mythological and elements of folklore, things that come from quote unquote history that have never been proven true. Bible stories, incredible events like. Dylan, what was that legion that was in that Doctor Who episode last season that we don't know what happened to them? There was an episode about them.
Oh, yeah. The I don't remember the number. But yeah, there's a Roman legion that just sort of disappeared. Kind of like the whole Roanoke, Virginia thing.
Right, yeah, Roanoke was when it was an Ancient Mysteries episode as well. And Bigfoot was one. Because technically that relates to history. At least the parts of it that we're talking about tonight do, in the sense that it's, stuff that is involved in the founding of America, and we're going back centuries and stuff. And also,
it's certainly more plausible than the Bible stories.
and the native, and also the Native American connection to Bigfoot is another massive element of history that makes that make sense, I guess. But in that, they quoted one of those Bigfoot books from the 70s I mentioned before, and they had apparently translated some ancient text from, because all of the information we have on Leif Erikson comes from people writing about him or him writing about himself, sagas as they were known. These are your Viking or again Nordic people historical texts, and that's all the information we have to go on in the translations of them. And apparently in one of them, it was accounted that he encountered a group of large, hairy, swarthy-looking, savage tribesmen with big black eyes. And that was the kickoff for the idea that Leif Erikson saw Bigfoot. And that was what Ancient Mysteries quoted. And from there, it's become a huge part of Bigfoot mythology. And when I heard that when I was a kid, this idea of Leif Erikson and Vikings coming to North America before Christopher Columbus and encountering Bigfoot, that captured my imagination. But more than that, when they told that story, they showed this incredibly evocative drawing of a Viking like fighting a Sasquatch, and it was like it had this big piece of wood that had been crafted into this weapon. It captured my imagination. And
now I just picture Leif Erikson going back to Viking land, and then telling the story, being all like, you can see them coming because their eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes.
Black as eyes, a doll's eyes.
And all the fucking Vikings are sitting around like, oh shit, it's getting good. Like,
you were on the Indianapolis? So David, here's
how sure are we that this guy actually exists?
Leif Erikson?
Yeah.
He is.
It sounds kind of vague. Not gonna lie. Your explanation for what we know about him sounds a lot like what we know about Jesus.
Well, they're firsthand. Yeah, but two of the sagas are firsthand accounts of his own life, so they're written from his point of view. So unless it's like the fucking Don Quixote book, and it's like it's him writing as a fictional character he created, maybe. But
it turns out this is like a Beowulf situation. Like imagine if we found.
I don't think so. I've always again. There's a lot of archaeological evidence I read up for Leif Erikson, so I don't think so. The vagueness comes in terms of the translations of his sagas, because that's where all the wiggle room is in terms of what did this guy actually do and see, That's what we're trying to figure out here. And what David...
They probably shouldn't have called them sagas, because that makes it sound even more spurious,
Right, Right, well, it sounds like a story then, which is what they were. He was chronicling his adventures. So there is probably a lot of exaggeration and personal bias, you know, because he's recounting his own life through his eyes. It's not an objective source. I don't know if there is a straight up objective source for Leif Erikson's exploits.
So since a lot of it is probably exaggerated, then that raises the possibility that when he says, "Oh, I ran into these hairy people," he could have just meant, "Oh, I went into Walmart past."
You're jumping the gun. I was going to ask David that, but David, you still think that Leif Erikson met Bigfoot?
I think so.
Well, Dylan,
he could have met one of your ancestors.
He's definitely sleep deprived. He's just making personal attacks now in order to thwart his lack of knowledge about our great American history in relation to Nordic people. But yeah, Dylan,
our great American history includes Bigfoots.
It does not actually, because Dylan hit the nail on the head. The translation that was being used by this 70s Bigfoot book that was quoted in Ancient Mysteries was one that is no longer deemed a valid translation of those sagas, because it was one where it wasn't just the straight-up translation of the first-hand account of Leif Erikson. It was that plus all this other conjecture, and it was worded by the author. You know, it wasn't just, again, not just the straight-up translation, so there was a lot of conjecture and vagueness added there, to the point where that exact quote that we get, a group of large, hairy, tribesmen with dark eyes, doesn't even exist in that writing anymore, to the point where what's actually there is a bunch of people with bad hair on their heads. That's what's actually reflected in the writing. So
this Leif Erikson guy sounds like he needs a Ray Harryhausen movie based on his life. Sounds like Viking Sinbad, you know. There could be Sasquatches in it.
See, I want to see the deal there is, it's just a matter of, you know, like, all this, it astounds me just how this stuff gets caught up in the public consciousness, you know, like, that this show quotes it from a book, and then this book quotes it from this other book. This book turns out to be this really shitty translation of an actual Nordic text, and it's just, the chain fascinates me in terms of how these things get ingrained into the canon, because this the Ancient Mysteries documentary shows a picture. They show a picture of the text where this is written down, and it just tries to paint this image in your head that there's actually this like ancient Viking tome out there that actually recounts it this way in English with a fucking picture of Sasquatch in it, which is absolutely not the case.
Even if it was a reliable translation of this old Viking text, who knows how fucking reliable the fucking Viking text is to begin with?
Even if he did encounter a bunch of hairy people.
They were drunk a lot.
But it's also like, he describes them as tribesmen, so likely he just encountered a savage tribe, you know? He just
encountered some Eskimos, and he was like, "Monster!" And then he ran back to I don't know, Denmark? Where were they from?
Not Denmark. Maybe actually, but you're Swedish, Norway. That's where your Vikings are typically, your Viking lore typically originates from.
Right, pre-wooden shoes. Right.
Exactly. So, Dave, Dave, do you feel like you learned something now that you know that Leif Erikson probably didn't see Bigfoot?
Hell no. I could have lived the rest of my life not knowing that, and it wouldn't have made a difference.
I know that you kept up with Bigfoot stuff when you were younger, though. Have you ever heard any of that the Bigfoot lore goes back that far to? Because you're dealing with a guy who, Leif Erikson, if he was real, as Dylan questions, we're dealing with a guy who lived at a time where the year was still 3 numbers and not 4. So, roughly, what I read earlier suggested that if he did land in North America, it would have been around, like, 1000 AD exactly. So, you know, that's the kind of era we're dealing with. So
people were so confused why they weren't counting backwards anymore, you know?
Exactly right. But David, did you ever encounter any of those stories when you were still into Bigfoot when you were young?
I might have, but I might have forgotten the names.
Mm-hmm. I see. So
I don't think David had ever heard of Leif Erikson before. I don't think
I really blindsided him with this whole line of questioning.
I bet you he's never even seen that one joke on SpongeBob.
Have you seen that,
Probably.
Leif Erikson Day?
Wait, that came from SpongeBob?
No, SpongeBob made a joke about Leif Erikson.
Why do I even do all this research? Why do I read all these articles about Leif Erikson?
SpongeBob make up Leif Erikson.
Oh, maybe SpongeBob did make up Leif Erikson. Maybe this is all like a weird hallucination in my head now, and I made all this up, and that's the reality. I'm just a crazy person.
Between that and you asking me if that dude sucked a girl's dick, quite the pot.
Why don't we move on to the next Bigfoot story then? So the next piece of Bigfoot canon that I was always fascinated by when I was a kid, this is, again, we're dealing with largely historical-based Sasquatch storytelling here. But again, this is one I believe we've talked about on the podcast before. Have you guys ever heard, David, I'm asking you, sleep-deprived you, of Ape Canyon?
Ape Canyon?
Ape Canyon.
Sounds like the place you were born at, Bill.
Damn.
Every fucking question will just get a snarky fucking personal attack response. I love it.
This is what happens when I only sleep for 3 hours, Bill.
I love it. It's exactly what I wanted. Just a pissed off, totally uncooperative David. It's awesome.
Bill, if you were black, that right there would have gotten the SJWs to come after us. Damn it.
Why if I was black?
Because ape is a derogatory term. So that's why like a bunch of people think that Planet is racist. Because people
A southerner would know that insult.
You are beyond that side of the Mason-Dixon, Dylan. So
I don't know what you're implying there, Andre.
I don't remember any of it.
I don't know what you're talking about. Hey, boy, bring me another mint julep.
No, we all thought you were serious. But unlike the serious injury that David received to his head when he was born, this Ape Canyon
turn into a roast. Can this just turn into a back and forth roast between the two of you? Because I feel like that's a lot more entertaining than anything we've ever done in our entire lives. Like,
it'll be that anyway, because I'm just going to keep asking him questions about like historical shit. He won't have any idea what I'm talking about, and he'll respond with his insecurities with more personal attacks. So it'll be perfect.
I graduated high school to get away from history.
David, Ape Canyon is in Washington, and it was so named because in 1924 a group of miners report that they were attacked by an entire platoon of Sasquatches with rocks after they had killed one of those Sasquatches days prior because it spooked them when they were going to get some water at some point. These are all guys out looking for gold. This is after the gold rush, but this is still during that time where the West was sort of mysterious and they still thought that there was gold out there. So these are the kind of types you're dealing with, and that's what they were out there doing. And
I love that use of the word spooked. It evokes images of Bigfoot jumping out from behind a rock and going boo, and then
that's exactly what happened.
Zoinks! Let's get out of here!
Like Zoinks, Clementine, or whatever 1924 names were a thing. I saw a reenactment of this on YouTube. It was the most hysterical fucking thing I have ever fucking seen. The Bigfoot suit was what is it? There's some character. They have a name. I've seen them a million times. It looks like it might actually be the Jack Link's beef jerky Sasquatch, the Halloween costume version of that.
The messing with Sasquatch?
Yeah, because there is a Halloween costume version of that design for Bigfoot. It might have been that, but there's some like super cheap Bigfoot costume or something that you see in a bunch of different like YouTube videos that like, oh, we need a Bigfoot, so we're going to use this costume.
I like that.
And they play it, but they play it like so seriously, like as if it's like a real threat. It's fucking hysterical. And more than that, you can tell that they literally just got like actors who they got on like Backstage.com, because it's just people of any and all race and age and type of and body type who they got to be these prospectors, because none of them look like prospectors. They all look like people who work at like Apple, you know?
Yeah.
So you know that's your issue there.
You gotta find you could put me in the right kind of hat, and I think I could look like a prospector, you know, or Bigfoot, you know. But you take some like little Justin Bieber looking kid,
right?
And you call him Prospector Pete, and then he goes out and it doesn't work.
So, David, you have not heard of Ape Canyon before in all of your years of not living in your mother's basement because you don't have one.
No, I have not.
Well,
not until today. Until today.
Well, what do you think then? Because in 1924, this guy John Beck, this happens to him. He decides he's going to go off and write a book.
Wait, the producer for King Kong vs. Godzilla?
Yeah. Oh my God. Wait, hang on. I just want to make sure I have the name right, because I may have misremembered the first name. I just want to make sure that it's John Beck and not. Where's this guy's name now? Beck, okay.
You said
Fred Beck. Okay, so yeah, no, damn, it's not the producer of King Kong versus Godzilla. I mean, that wouldn't have matched up timeline-wise anyway, but that would have made a lot of sense, right? That he would have gone on to make that movie, or at least the American version of it. Or he was a full-on co-producer on that, because they co-produced that with Universal. Anyway, so David, what happened was this guy went off and wrote a book all about the incident, in which he claims then that these creatures sent him psychic messages years prior to the incident, informing him that it would happen, presumably because, again, they claim that they killed a Bigfoot, and they didn't call it a Bigfoot. This is before the 1924 would have been 40 years before the term Bigfoot was coined. That was in the early 60s. So they're just talking about these things like they're these ape men, these savage mountain monsters, and he described them as these extra-dimensional beings who, you know, were warning him about this entire cosmic plane that no other person in the world had any idea was a thing except him. So, do you think that this man, rationally and objectively, had a Bigfoot sighting?
As much as I want to believe it, I don't think so, because this sounds like a bad acid trip.
Well,
like, were there mushrooms in those times? Like,
I mean, you mean in 1924? Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, mushrooms have been a thing since like the Precambrian era. I mean, I don't know. If that's
the type of mushrooms that give you bad trips.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, yes.
I don't know if people were using them at that time, but they definitely existed.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because there's a thought process that society, in whatever form it was in when this happened, moved away from hallucinogenic drugs like mushrooms and stuff that came from the earth, and moved on to fermented fruit and alcohol, because it was easier and cheaper to produce, and because of and religions that formed around said societies, alcohol was better for their purposes, because people who did the drugs often didn't join up there with the religions. The people who drank and worked a lot, they were the ones who joined up with the religion. So there's all kinds of theory around that, but that's all that's a lot of conjecture that I learned about at one point.
Because if you get a guy high on mushrooms and give him a pitch about your religion, you know, he'll be thinking very deeply at that moment and be like, I don't know, something that sounds like bullshit to me.
Or he'll be too busy looking at his hand.
Exactly. You do that with a drunk guy, he's like, sounds good to me.
He's like, whatever, man. Got any more? Yeah, exactly. Right. That's the conjecture. So it's interesting you asked that question, because the idea is, yes, they have been around for a long time, but our society deemed them as evil at one point, because those people wouldn't get with the rest of the program. Was this guy on mushrooms? You would hope so, because that's the interesting thing about guys like this, right? That they go off and they make these claims and they write these books, and they fully and completely believe it. This is a man, interestingly, that was interviewed by Roger Patterson before he died and before he had his big, iconic Bigfoot sighting. And there's radio interviews with him out there. I didn't get to listen to them before this. I meant to. I'm sure they're fucking riveting to listen to. But just in terms of the whacked out shit this guy must be saying. But I always find it interesting that these guys have this such out there interpretation of Bigfoot when all that happened was some rocks hit their cabin. That was it. You know, like literally just somebody threw rocks at them. And we're also dealing with a cabin here, and this is a big part of the story. That the version of it that I even read as a kid made this clear. There were no windows in the cabin. They couldn't see out the way. All they had.
This sounds like every scene from Boggy Creek.
Yeah, it does.
Like, you hear that? And they look out the window, and there's nothing there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's no window to look out. They had little tiny plug holes in the sides
that's right. Run to the door, look out, nothing out there.
Yeah, they had little tiny plug holes they can look out of. And what they were doing was sticking their rifles out of them and firing at whatever was throwing rocks at them. Which makes this next point all the more interesting. So, David, you're not buying this one. Well, neither is the game warden of Ape Canyon at the time, who said that these guys were fucking idiots for thinking this. Because, there was a National Park Service at this point. They did an investigation and everything. It was a 1924 investigation, so God knows, how effective it was. But they looked, there were some dudes in some kind of federal outfit looking around for clues. They said they turned up nothing.
These were the pre-DNA days where it was still, super easy to get away with murder.
Right. And, right, exactly, where it was like a guy, like an old middle-aged man would show up in his cop uniform, look around like a blood-soaked murder scene and be like, yep, somebody died here, and then that would be the extent of the crime scene investigation.
Somebody mop up this mess.
Yeah, somebody get this blood out of here. We gotta have a lunch in here in 10 minutes. Point being, though, he said that some local YMCA kids, I believe that was the organization. It was an acronym with a Y in it, and YMCA is the one that's in my head.
There was a YMCA in those days?
Yeah, maybe that's why the acronym isn't right now. But I'm pretty sure it was the YMCA. Hang on, I have the article here. Let's just look, shall we? Is it?
I don't doubt that there was a YMCA.
No, there were the YMCA campers. Yep. There was they would camp near Spirit Lake, and it was a tradition that dated back pre-1924 apparently, and they would apparently do this a lot.
It's a shame to wait so long for the Village people to give them a theme song.
Apparently, these campers would raise hell in the park a lot by throwing rocks around and just causing all kinds of hell. So the only difference is here they attacked people with guns. There's no concrete evidence that that's definitely what happened, but it certainly raises a lot of questions. And if only he had just said that, like, we killed some weird looking monster and we had rocks thrown at us, his story would be so much more credible. But the introduction of the extra dimensional element of it, I don't know what to make of that.
He told all that to the cops?
No, this is all later on when he talked to Roger Patterson, like I said.
Okay.
And in his book that he published. So maybe he added this all in his head later. But in the moment, this story is actually what gave the canyon its name. So, regardless of whether or not it happened, it captured people's imaginations to such an extent that the canyon is still called that to this day. And many, 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 many decades later, let's get an exact year on that, shall we? Disappearance of skier Jim Carter, 1963. Skier goes missing in Ape Canyon. Not only does he go missing, when they did their investigation on him, this is obviously in a slightly more advanced era of crime scene investigation, they were able to put together a very specific, path of what happened to him because he was skiing, and there was snow on the ground that they could look at. And the path that he took, and this is a guy who was a professional skier, or if he was not professional, he was at least very good. Hang on, I should also check that now. But the path that he took is not one that would have been taken by somebody who was good at skiing, because it was a very hazardous path, and the path indicated that, the trail and the way it looked indicated that he was in a hurry, as if he was being chased or as if he was on his way to something. So, also at one point, they could tell that he ditched his skis and ran off the side of a cliff as if he was trying to avoid something that had cornered him. So this led to a whole new Bigfoot phenomenon being sprouted up around Ape Canyon. And again, this is in the 60s now, when Bigfoot is a marketable thing. It's pre the Roger Patterson film, though. So it's pre the huge hype. The name Bigfoot is around. So of course everybody's saying that Bigfoot killed this guy. And this murder has still never been solved, and the people who investigated it even said there is literally zero explanation here as to what happened. All we can conclude is that the apes got him. That's what they said. So, David, what do you make of that one? Are apes walking off with skiers?
Like a Yeti?
Well, I mean, it's in the same place as the last one, so it wouldn't be the Yeti simply because it's not in that part of the world, but all right, yeah, I guess.
Specifically like Snow Beast.
Oh, yeah, more like Snow Beast. Also, people don't ski in the Yeti's range, David. There's no skiing going on in the Himalayan mountains.
Why not?
At least as far as I know. I could be wrong on that. What do you make of that one?
Sounds believable.
I mean,
but since I'm sleep deprived, I'm gonna believe it.
There you go. But
it's like I've seen Snow Beast. That sounds all right to me.
That one is so much more plausible, though, simply because it's one of those ones where we know so little about it that it could be Bigfoot and it wouldn't even matter. Like, he could have been pursued by an actual murderer, and there's just as much evidence to support that. Right? Like, somebody could have been waiting out there, even in a Bigfoot costume, and chased him, trying to kill him or whatever, and it could have led to his death.
No, that's a horror movie we need. A person who kills people dressed as Bigfoot to get people to think that Bigfoot is killing people.
That's actually that is a clever idea, and it would be better if they weren't killing them with their hands, if they were just scaring them into like killing themselves, like chasing them off cliffs and stuff.
That's like Scooby-Doo for adults right there.
That's a great idea. Wow. Yeah, I like that a lot. There we go. That's our next book.
The next big slasher movie. It's called not Snow Beast.
It's called Snow Beast, but the real beast is man.
Snow Beast, the next generation.
Oh, even better. So, Andres, what do you make of Ape Canyon?
He was not paying attention.
Did you watch Little Bear when you were a kid, Andres?
Little Bear. Oh, I remember Little Bear, yeah.
There was a frog in that show who would meditate, and when he would meditate, he would go like, home. That is exactly what you just took me back. You took me back to to that moment.
to
when I
an
was
obscure
a kid.
show that nobody makes memes about
You
anymore.
captured that moment for me again. Like, I felt like I was in front of the TV. Yeah, they should make Little Bear memes. I would like that. No. I actually have seen Little Bear memes. The one that I saw was like, well, how come Little Bear's parents wear clothes but he doesn't? Like that was the one that I saw, which is
I may have remember seeing that also.
Which is a very good question.
If the fucking aardvark with the glasses gets to have memes made out of him, then Little Bear deserves it too. Damn it, And the turtle. What was the turtle's name? You remember the turtle?
Franklin.
Yeah.
Franklin had a hat and nothing else.
Also, what's weird is that Franklin, he has a real name, but everyone else, their names are after their species. If you remember.
That's right.
Are there any Bear in the Big Blue House memes?
Yes, there
No,
are.
I haven't seen.
I have also seen Big Bear in the Big Blue House, like one or two. I don't remember the specifics of those memes, but they were also memes.
Bear in the Big Blue House used to be my jam.
I don't remember anything about that show except there was a bear and he was in a big blue house. Why was he in a big blue house? Was this a big blue house
every night
in the woods?
Every night, Bill, before he went to sleep, he talked to the moon. The moon was a character. It had a face.
I remember
You know
this.
what? I do that too, and I just get called a crazy person. So that's all I'm saying. There's a customer that still comes into my job to this day who me and my old boss used to call the bear in the big blue house because he was a creepy-looking old white dude, very hairy, who lived in a big blue house. So
Was he a large, hairy, gay man? 'Cause
I don't know if no, he was very ungay. He was very creepy in a Director of Jeepers Creepers 3 kind of way. That's why whenever he comes in still, I'm like, oh, why do you have to be here? Why do I have to talk to
I
you?
had an employee. I had a guest or customer guest like that back when I used to work at the YMCA pool.
Like a creepy Jeepers Creepers
Yes.
3-esque type.
Yeah.
The pool you used to work at was YMCA.
Yeah.
Oh, holy shit! You just got a bit of your former employer's history with that last Bigfoot story. How do you feel?
Well, again, it provides a lot of historical context.
Yeah, like your fucking people are out there throwing rocks at miners, getting shot. That's the one thing about that story, though. Like, even if it was YMCA kids at night throwing the rocks, what did they kill? Because that's the first part of that story. The miners claim...
YMCA. I just did a quick Google search here. Did you know that the YMCA was founded in 1844
Holy
in
shit.
London?
So, yeah, they're...
In London. I
Yeah.
thought that was an American thing. Damn it.
Is that... No, that's not pre-Revolutionary War. But...
No. No.
My bad. I forgot that you said 18.
I don't know if it's pre-Civil War.
No.
What are the exact
Yeah,
years
no,
of the Civil
that is pre-Civil War. Civil War was 1865.
War? Okay.
Right? Yes. That I'm confident on. That I know for a fact.
61 to 65, Bill, according to...
I'm not saying it started in 65. You know what? I should just stick to Bigfoot. That's all I know. So that's the odd part of that story for me. That's why Ape Canyon still has a little bit of mystique for me. The Leif Erikson Bigfoot has been completely debunked to me, but Ape Canyon still has some mystique to me because what did they shoot and kill that fell into the canyon? Sure, they could be lying. Sure, they could have been drunk. But they shot and killed something that they think motivated its kin to attack them. So
That's what you called that slasher movie that I pitched. You just call it Ape Canyon. You said it in Ape Canyon, and you call it Ape Canyon because that's a good name for a monster movie.
I've always
or a movie
wanted them
that
to do
tricks
some
you
kind of
and-
movie set there.
Is there already a movie set in Ape Canyon?
No, they've never done anything about the incident to my knowledge. Although there's been talk of it. Hopefully, if they ever do it, it'll be better than that reenactment I watched on YouTube.
It makes sense, though, because if you're a serial killer whose MO is dressing up like Bigfoot and tricking people into thinking they're being chased by Bigfoot, you would want to do it in an area that already has a culture of Bigfoot sightings.
Right. And Ape Canyon, that's Mount St. Helens in Washington. That is like primo Bigfoot territory.
Like, if you want to kill people dressed as an alien, you should probably go to Roswell, because then everybody will be like, figures.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a Ghostbusters comic in the new IDW series that played with that, where there were ghosts that took the form of aliens in Roswell simply because that's what the consciousness of the town wanted. I think that was the idea. It's been a while since I've read that one. But anyway, so that is all of the Bigfoot stories that I did all the detailed research on. We're gonna
All that research?
the next time we do this, more of the focus will be on more modern, like, actual stuff with video and pictures and physical evidence, not just stories. But this time I just wanted to focus on the historical Bigfoot stories that we just have accounts of and stuff that I heard when I was a kid that made me go, oh my god, there's a monkey out there throwing rocks at miners, and then it turns out to be YMCA campers, so...
That's
what
what we call another hour of podcasting where you try to defend the Patterson footage, and I say, yeah, but it's probably still bullshit. Then that's
exactly right. I have more fuel for my fire now. No, it's still the same amount of fuel. But we'll do that next time. Well, not next time. We'll do that the next time I feel like talking about Bigfoot on this show. We'll do another cryptid. The next time we do cryptids, who knows? We'll do something a little different. I wanted to do... There are some shark-based cryptids that I wanted to do. So some megalodon-esque stuff that has been reported. And we can also talk about in that the long chain of Discovery Channel and Animal Planet fake mockumentaries, like the mermaid and the megalodon stuff that they did. So, as
you know, this week, the bloop. Remember the bloop?
Well, the bloop is a part. Have we talked about the bloop on this show?
I don't know.
We haven't.
Well,
No, I don't. We probably referenced it, but we never had a full discussion about it.
Well,
We talked about the bloop on DFOS before, but not on this show.
the Animal Planet mermaid documentary actually has the bloop as part of it, so we can talk about it when we talk about that. Have you guys seen that?
Oh no, the mermaid thing.
The mermaid
No.
thing, the body found, as it was called.
Oh, yeah, the one that had that CGI kind of walking with dinosaurs kind of documentary style.
Except it played itself. It's like
Like,
it's like
it was like that documentary Dragons, a fantasy made real.
So much more though. So much more. It like trying to paint itself as being real. You know.
Yeah, but the
Like the Dragon documentary.
The
dragon
way
one
more
was
so
very-
than that though.
The dragon one though is very clear about the fact that it's not real because it
It's
says,
called a fantasy made real.
yeah. I never watched that and thought, oh, is this legit? But like the mermaid one, it seems like from what I've heard because I haven't watched it, was very disingenuous with its presentation.
Yeah.
Maybe they had too much faith in their audience that their audience would be able
Would
to watch it
you
and be like,
guys
oh, bullshit.
want to do a commentary on that? Or
Sure.
Or would you prefer to watch it yourselves and then talk about it on this next week? Or
I
not
want
next
to
week.
watch it myself.
Do you, Andres and Dylan, are you guys down to do that?
Yeah.
Could I pretend to watch it and then sit silently in the background?
You could. I mean, there's literally nothing I can do to stop you.
Then every now and then you would ask me a question about it. You'd be like, hey, what'd you think about this turn in the third act? And I'd be like, uh-huh.
There is no third act. It's not long enough to have a third act. You could. But I would not recommend it. Maybe that's something we should do a commentary on, though. That might be more fun as something to make fun of while we're watching it.
And this is what their mermaids are supposed to look like? They're not even sexy.
No, they're not people. They're like fish primates. So that's what we'll do. We'll do a commentary on it. I think that'll probably be more fun. So we'll talk about some aquatic-based cryptids that have been misconstrued in terms of the evidence that is put forward for them in recent years. I'm just going to talk about the Megalodon one because that one literally has nothing to it, and the ending is the only part that's worth talking about.
If you click on the Google image result for the fake mermaid skeleton from that, right next to it in one of the other results is the actual human skeleton that they photoshopped.
Great. So we'll talk about all of that and many more things next time on the Sons of Serizawa podcast. But before we do that, what needs to be said by you folks at the end of this here podcast?
Bill, do you want to take this opportunity to finally announce our next commentary thing, or do you want to save that?
No, I think we should definitely do that now. So Dylan and I are going to be doing another commentary series in October. That will be doing that will be Halloween themed. D, what franchise are we going to be covering that will reflect the ghoulish themes of October?
We're gonna take a big middle finger to Marvel and look at the actual first cinematic universe in Hollywood, the Universal Monsters franchise. We're gonna be going all the way from Lon Chaney Sr. in the 1925 Phantom of the Opera, all the way up to the Gill Man in Creature from the Black Lagoon. We're only going to talk about the main films. We're not going to get into all the sequels and things. Those will all have to be covered in addendums and what have you. But all of the main films we're going to cover, we're looking at 9 commentaries by the time it's all over. So it's going to be about the same length as the other series. We've already recorded one of them. I feel like it came out really good. But
I was there.
excited.
I can confirm.
That'll be in the days leading up to Halloween. So you all own calendar, you know when that'll be.
We'll do it like we did for the Week of Kong and Talking Apes, except this time it'll be for like an actual holiday. So it'll be the week, or more accurately, like the 9 days or so building up to Halloween. So the last one will go up on Halloween. So yeah, or the day before maybe, however I plan to release them. So that is what we will be doing. And we'll be doing lots of stuff in the interim. I still got to do my Shin Godzilla addendum to Godzilla Palooza. So
is it going to be 5 hours long this time?
I should make it that long, shouldn't I? No, realistically, it'll be way shorter than the Godzilla 2014 one because it's going to be.
So only 2 hours.
Exactly
awesome.
Right.
Excellent.
This one will be the exact runtime of the movie, as opposed to being longer than the movie.
Right, exactly. So look out for that and many more things. So Andres, you want to pimp anything out, bro?
Absolutely. So I'm not sure, I don't think I mentioned this in the previous episode. If I did, I'll just pimp it out again. I was tagged by D-Man 1954 as part of a Tag Your It 5 questions for kaiju YouTubers. And so I answered 5 of his questions and provided 4 more YouTubers with 5 questions of my own. One of them being Bill. David here still hasn't gotten around to his. Patrick and Andrew have done theirs as well. Those are the other 2 guys I tagged. And I believe Brayton and I did a lot of great work on making this video together. The next thing I did was Shoewatch, episode 31, in which I interview Brandon and Jack of the Kaiju Assault card game. At previous G-Fests, I've always seen the Kaiju Assault card game being played, and now they're currently having collaborations with other indie kaiju creators, such as Denian and Christopher Martinez and Zach Cole, in order to have actually license their characters and make official expansion packs out of their characters and put them into the card game, in a way kind of going from a fan game, a non-profit fan game where you just have cards of Gamera and Ultraman and Godzilla, to now becoming a more legit thing by having actual licensed characters in the game. And maybe you might be seeing a certain blue robot involved in the Kaiju Assault card game in the near future. Maybe, perhaps, who knows?
Optimus
Prime?
Prime?
Gigantor?
What's that? Oh, yeah, Gigantor. That's a thing, David.
Romeo Blue from the Pacific.
The next thing I have is my hour and a half review that I did with Inshoma on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which was recorded way back in May. However, the reason why it was so delayed was because I was waiting on Inshoma to finish this really kick-ass art depicting our characters as as our mascots as characters from the movie. And so with that finally done, I was able to upload the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 review up there. And now, as of this recording, I just uploaded my long-awaited review for Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn, the 7-episode theatrically released OVA from 2009 that I've been planning since Gundam Month. I originally wanted to make my Gundam Unicorn review as the finale for Gundam Month way back in January. However, I wanted to go all out with this review and wanted to get a real good editor. However, unfortunately, all of my friends who have edited my videos in the past were all busy, and so I decided, because it's been so ridiculously long since Gundam Month, I decided to start a new series of trying to make my Gundam videos into a regular thing, considering how successful Gundam Month was, by creating Gundam Mania, and with Gundam Unicorn being the video to kickstart this new regular series.
So this is going to be a regular show, not a set thing that's going to have a beginning and ending.
Exactly. It's going to be about as regular as my scripted kaiju reviews. My next kaiju review, by the way, will be Rebirth of Mothra 3, which is coming along swimmingly. And so both my scripted kaiju reviews, or my scripted movie reviews, and the Gundam reviews will be 2 regular series now.
Awesome.
It's too bad. It's too bad the way that you've branded yourself on YouTube wouldn't jive with the title "Gun Damn It." That's always been.
Somebody did that already, though, didn't they? Didn't we talk about
that? Was just a meme.
Okay, right. I see. Because that would have been a good name, but
that was a meme, and we came up with the idea of using it as a title once for his other Gundam thing, and he was like, No, because he's got the whole squeaky clean image thing going on. This is the show he comes on to
unload his bile.
Yeah.
And we couldn't appreciate it anymore. So with all of that and many more things said, Dave, is there anything you want to say? Anything you want to pimp out?
I'd pimp out Andres, but he lives in Japan, so...
Why do you want to pimp me out?
He wants to pimp you out on the hard streets of Las Vegas.
Because you're the softest out of all of us. The more innocent one.
And why does that make you want to pimp me out?
Because he's convinced that he could pass you
it'll
off.
attract more customers, like the Jeepers Creepers director.
Exactly right.
He's convinced that he could pass you off as a child for the Jeepers Creepers guy. And then, he has
you like stand on your knees.
That way he's not actually harming anyone, and, we get a little money out of the deal,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I love how this went from like pimping out our shit to this insane pedophilia scam plot we've come up with. This is the way we're gonna make money, though. Fuck monetizing YouTube. We're just gonna scam pedophiles.
I mean, if you're gonna scam somebody,
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's dishonest.
It might as well be a pedophile.
Oh boy. Well, until then, I'm Bill Worster, aka Zazzy Bar.
I'm sleepy.
I'm Super Jam 64.
And I'm Dopey.
Ah, you did. I was hoping you guys would start naming yourself after the different Seven Dwarfs. And
I-ho, it's off to sleep, he'll go.
Thought about that, but then I remembered that I have a penis. So.
And then all those prospectors went off to be murdered by apes in their windowless cabin. So it's unfortunate, but the science is sound.
Or serial killers pretending to be apes.